Unless you're only free camping for a couple of days at a time, those U-Butte house batteries are going to need to be charged up. At the most basic level, a 240 volt to 12 volt charger is the way to go. As a rule of thumb, for a 100 amp hour battery, a 25 amp charger should be fine. Or for 2 or more batteries, go for a 40 amp charger. Just be aware that you can't dust off your old charger you bought 20 years ago and use it with AGM or lithium batteries. Each one needs a specific charge profile and they must be wired up as close as possible to the house batteries to avoid voltage drop. Using such a charger is fine if you have 240 volt mains power or a generator handy, but if you don't, you still have a couple of good charging options. One way to charge your house batteries is using your tow vehicle's alternator. With the engine running, the alternator provides power to run through a DC to DC charger in the RV and then to the house battery. Most newer vehicles have what's called a smart alternator system, which allows the vehicle to control the output voltage from the alternator based on vehicle operating conditions to reduce electrical load. This type of alternator doesn't do a great job of charging a house battery due to the varying voltage of the alternator. This type of alternator doesn't do a great job of charging a house battery due to the varying voltage of the alternator. To get around this, you'll need one of these, a DC to DC charger. A good DC to DC charger will fully charge the RV's house battery whether the vehicle has an old school fixed voltage alternator or a newer smart alternator. A good DC to DC charger will draw current from the alternator and bring a discharged house battery up to 100% using battery specific 3-stage charge profiles. The DC to DC charger should be mounted as close as possible to the house battery to avoid voltage drop. To charge a caravan's house battery from a vehicle's alternator, you need to run a minimum of 6mm squared cable and also use a 50 amp Anderson plug to connect the wires at the tow bar. If you don't, you'll have too much voltage drop, which will reduce the amount of charge going into your house battery. You'll need a good quality inline MIDI fuse or a resettable circuit breaker, and it is a good idea to fit a relay so that the plug is only powered when the vehicle is switched on. That's so if you leave the caravan accessories like a fridge on and forget to unplug the vehicle overnight, for example, you won't run the vehicle battery flat, although a good DC to DC charger will actually isolate the vehicle and house batteries. Now, the El Cheapo way of making power at camp is to kick your car over and make your alternator charge your system up, but that burns fuel and it also makes noise, and it could also make for a pretty uncomfortable camping experience as you pee off your neighbours.